How are you? You still loading? Okay. Hold on, let me turn this down some. How are you?
What's up,
Can
family? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing well. Great to hear from you.
Okay, I had to hook up my headphones. It's great to see you too, and I thank you for coming today. I know we having the upcoming boycott. We have one in effect already, and I really love the fact that you go into the restaurants and ask them where their people from. So we're just gonna get everybody a couple of minutes to get into the live.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And a lot of those videos that you may have seen me post, those are actually old videos, some from a year and even 2 and 3 years ago. And
Really?
I just decided to post them due to the relevancy of the boycott and the upcoming boycotts that we have. And
Oh wow.
some of them are new, some of them are new. But yeah, I've been on that type of time. And so for me, it's not even necessarily a boycott. It's just a way of life. It's a lifestyle, to make that conscious effort to support our people. And also, check their lineages while doing it. Because there are a lot of people out here masquerading as us when it's not the case. And, all of that has to be highlighted.
Very true, right? And so you'll notice whenever you mention New York, they really go like on these apps, they really be like, okay, where your people from? And they're looking for that connection to the South, right? So, so I get it. And I think that the immigrant class, also specifically the Tethers, are kind of giving New York a bad name, right? They're jumping in on topics that is not their topics to jump into. They're starting trouble with our family in the South. No matter what we go through with our Southerners, that's not their place to say, well, you said it, I could say it, or I was born and raised in New York. So what? You speak on Jamaica, you speak on Haiti, you speak on, you know what I'm saying, Trinidad, and you speak on your perspective as being a Caribbean here, but not as if you're an original New Yorker or somebody with roots to our chattel slavery era, our emancipation era. And all this fall unity, like New York isn't segregated, or that we didn't have to call a truce between us and the Latinos. There's so much going on here. But when you check the stats and stuff, we outnumber them. But you wouldn't think that from the way they talk.
Yeah, I was telling
I'm,
somebody that yesterday because they were saying, sorry for cutting you off. They were saying
it's
that they
okay.
were they were in a space or some sort of room somewhere, and that a Jamaican from New York was telling them that Jamaicans run New York and that they run the FBAs and all of that. And I was telling him like, hey, there's no like specific FBA strongholds, but we still are the largest black group in the city, in the state, and nobody's outnumbering us to the point where they're running stuff. So yeah, we got to, kill those narratives when they get put out there. Because these tethers, they think they get to speak from some sort of position of authority when that's not true. And they need to, well, we are now starting to gatekeep and regulate all of that. So a lot of that's coming to an end.
Yeah, because I didn't realize that they felt that way. Okay, so I'm 50, right? And I had my children in the 1990s. Their father is Jamaican. But when we were dating or courting or whatever you want to call it, Jamaicans knew they were Jamaican. They had their clubs. So in the Bronx, if you went up further up north, you went in the Bronx, like what is that? Bronxwood, Boston Post Road. You see the Jamaican clubs there, and you knew that you were going into a Jamaican club. We had our strongholds, our clubs too. It wasn't no running anything. You know what I'm saying? At that time, we pretty much was laying them on their back. And so, I think that as we grew older, especially my generation, and this is not to weaponize my age, but we understood how to share culture. And today, I'm wondering how come everybody thinks they're Black American, but Black Americans know they not everybody else. You understand what I'm saying? Like a Puerto Rican to be like, I grew up in the birthplace of well, Cardi B's Dominican, but they have this thing that they lived in proximity to us. We may have played together, so therefore they Black or could speak on the Black experience. Meanwhile, they white tea looking with blue eyes. And it's just like, so I have to tell them during the 80s, right? Because that's what I could remember, even though I was born in 75. We had one park. It was a cement wall. There was a basketball court on one side and a handball court on the other. The Puerto Ricans were on the handball courts and we were on the basketball courts. So I don't understand why everybody thinks that we were like this big melting pot and everything Black Americans did, the Puerto Ricans did too. It just really wasn't like that. To get into or to spend time with your Puerto Rican friend, it had to be in their house. It had to be a special occasion for them, and they may have asked their parent. Meanwhile, Black Americans are playing outside, we're running in and out. Well, we really wasn't running in and out the house, but if we had a yard, because I grew up in Soundview, we were going in and out of each other's yard, having barbecues together, stuff like that. But for Puerto Ricans to be invited to their house was special occasions. So I don't understand where all this for unity is coming from. Even with my children, raising my children, there was some who was like down with us, and there was some like you could tell they had microaggressions. Even as a Black American woman today, going into some of these establishments, I still face microaggressions. So when I decided to boycott the Asians in 2016, I started going to the Afro Latinos, right? Because I couldn't find a Black nail tech who did feet. I'm not going to this place to get my nails done and then going to another place to get my feet done. And that's how the Asians win also, because they're doing it all in one place.
Yeah.
But it was confirmed that my suspicion was correct. They do talk about us in their language. Because my cousin, who is from the Bronx but lived in Georgia for a while, came up to visit, right? So she has a cousin that lives on one. Okay, so I'm like in the Soundview section, Bronxdale, Bronx River, that type of thing, right? So she has one cousin that lives on the other side of me, and she called me. She said, "Cousin, I'm gonna come see you. I'm leaving my other cousin's house, but I'm gonna stop by the nail place." I said, "Okay, no problem." She comes in. She says, "Why them Dominicans so mean?" I said, "What you saying? They was talking about you?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "They didn't know you spoke Spanish, huh?" She said, "No." I was like, "Oh, what they say?" She said, "I started speaking Spanish back and they mouths dropped." And I was like, "Yeah, can't go to them." So I've been doing my feet ever since. Myself. And I want to treat myself to a pedicure, but I have to find. But I think they're in Mount Vernon. Oh, do you have any nail salons on your list?
Not yet. I'm definitely looking to add more of those, as well as Black, beauty salons and hairdressers, but none yet. So hopefully this broadcast could, help draw in some more businesses like that, because we definitely need to add those to the joint so that, more sisters don't have to go into these hostile environments.
Yeah. Well, it seems like everybody else is live too. I'm gonna give everybody 5 more minutes. I could do a mini interview with you, and put it on Twitter, repost it on my TikTok, and they could get the information. Because I do not want to hold you up on this glorious Saturday.
Yeah, and then if need be, I'll always come back. Just as long as you tell me like a few days ahead of time, we can make it happen.
Okay, yeah. And I've been
Yeah.
my account is private, so I can't. I had to share it out early. But now that you're on the stage, I can't share it out again. They're like, your account is private. I don't really care though. I have you here, and I really appreciate you
I appreciate the
coming.
opportunity for real.
For real, yes. So tell me about what prompted you to start your FBA directory.
Well, this in I guess 2016, I was dealing with this girl, and just in how we was dealing with each other and building each other up. she motivated me to, we were just like motivating each other on different levels, and we started to like share health tips with each other about different, all natural stuff, like stop using fluoride toothpaste and use fluoride-free activated charcoal toothpaste, to start using organic pressed coconut oil to clean your mouth with instead of using mouthwash. We started like learning about black soap and just a whole bunch of healthy stuff. And then we started to learn about sea moss and other natural herbs and foods and fruits and stuff. And within that journey that we was on together, we started a business where we were selling sea moss. That was like our main product, sea moss. And then we would also, we got hooked up with some Jamaica. I think they were from Trinidad or Jamaica, one of them. But we got hooked up with some folks from the Caribbean, and they had to connect to all of the exotic fruits from over there. So we added those to the business, and the business, we had it booming for like 3 years. The fruits started to slow up, and we just really couldn't do the business anymore. So we shut the business down, and that was that. And then from like 2020, when we shut the business down, to 2021 or 2022, it was still, things were still up in the air with the pandemic. There was still a lot of lockdowns, and I no longer had that website, because that website and that business, that was one of the ways I made money. That was one of my primary sources of income. So I said, man, I want to do something next. And I just had a bunch of success with running this business from this website. So now I want to, try something else. And I just didn't know exactly what it was going to be. But I knew I wanted to do something. So what I was doing when, remember they sent out, what were they called? The checks they sent out?
They were stimulus checks.
Yeah, when they sent out like the first stimulus check, I was like, oh snap, what am I going to do with this money? And it really wasn't much to do because a lot of things were still closed down. So on YouTube, I was just watching a lot of YouTube, and I said, yo, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast. And I found out the equipment that I needed. So I went, bought some equipment, and I started the podcast. And when I started the podcast, I was like, man, I need to promote it. So for years, I would always watch Tariq Nasheed. And he's a filmmaker, author, activist, entrepreneur. He does a bunch of stuff in the Black community. I would always watch his like Sunday broadcast that he would do, and he would always refer to like his Twitter followers and the people that followed him on Twitter, and he would always say, "Oh yeah, shout outs to Jimmy Perry. That's one of the names I was familiar with him. Henrietta Snacks." He would just always shout out these people he would follow on Twitter. And for years, I would always say, man, I want to create a Twitter to, see who these people are. I just never got around to it. So when I started the podcast, I said, all right, now's the time for me to start this Twitter so I could promote my podcast and then also, meet these people who Tariq Nasheed be talking about. So I did that. I created the Twitter. I started to promote the podcast, and it started to get popping like that. And my first page, they took it down. So the new page that I have now, the Melrose Radio USA, the one you follow me on, that was the second page I started. And the podcast, it was popping. And then around that first year where I was doing the podcast and on Twitter came out with Twitter Spaces. And so I started to do that. And I started to use my podcast equipment to play music on the Twitter space. So that was like a little unique thing that set me apart from everyone else. And one thing I do, like I need to take breaks from social media. So I usually take about 6 to 8 month span, like breaks from social media. So during one of the breaks, I took a break for like 6 to 8 months, came back on the app, started to do my Twitter spaces again. And at this point, I had stopped podcasting. I was only doing the Twitter spaces. And then I went for about 6 to 9 months, on Twitter, doing Twitter spaces. And then I took another 9 months off. And in that 9 months that I took off, this is now 2023, I started DJing. I picked up DJing. So not only, was I making money again from having a new service to offer people, but I was like, all right, this goes, because when I was doing the music on Twitter Spaces for the first 2 years, I was just playing music from my phone. I wasn't necessarily DJing. But since I already had the name Melrose Radio, I was like, oh snap, I'm gonna go back on Twitter and I'm gonna start promoting my DJ services. So while I was doing that, I said, yo, I wanna start a website so that, people could book me for if they wanted to DJ, or, if they want to buy some products. Now at the time, and I still don't have any products that I sell, but I'm working on some merchandise and products to sell on the site. But I was like, I still want to be able to drive traffic to the site. So until I figure out what product I have, and also, if somebody doesn't necessarily need DJ services, I still want to drive traffic to the site. And I was like, hey, let's promote Black businesses. Let me promote Black businesses. Because like I said, a lot of those videos I posted, those are from 2-3 years ago, before I even had the idea to create the Black pages and make the business directory. So like I said, I say all that to say, I got the idea from the business that I was doing back in 2017, 2018, because I knew how to, create websites from that business. And I said, yo, I want to do the same thing, but this time I want to promote other Black businesses. And that's the origin story of how I came about the idea to create the Black Pages, Black Business Directory. And I know you're familiar with the old school yellow pages, and I just took the yellow and switched it with black. And that's how I got that.
Okay, so you don't have to necessarily tell me your vetting process, but you do vet the businesses that you put on your directory, right? To ensure that they are foundational Black American owned. Hey, delineationist. Hey, Dread. Melrose.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I'm not scared or whatever to share my vetting process. I basically, if it's in New York City, or if it's a city that I'm in, typically New York, I'll go in, and if it looks, or if they're professing to be an FBA business, I'll go in and I'll say, hey, do you mind? I'd like to order. Do you mind if I take a video for my social media? And they'll usually say yes. And then usually what you'll see in a lot of those videos is you'll see me on the outside, meaning that I already went in and asked them. So when I go back out on the outside, I'm just getting a good look for everybody in the video. Hey, we're at this spot. Now let's go in. And then when I go in, they know I'm doing a video, but they're not expecting me to ask the question, where's your family from? And then they usually say, oh, we're from here. No, ma'am, where's your family from? And as you can see in all the videos, I ask that until they give me the right answer. And thank God that's been the case, because if I don't get the right answer, I will probably walk out, more than likely, just to show people that we're standing on business. Now, I don't have a problem with supporting immigrant businesses, but they got to be special and exceptional at this point, because I'm not for the one-way relationship that we've been having. So yeah, that's the vetting process for businesses that I can physically walk into. Now, as far as the ones in other states and cities, if I didn't get a recommendation from somebody who says, no, I know these people, this is their people, their FBA, I'll just give them a call and do the same thing. Hey, where's your family from? No, where's your great-great-grandparents from? I'll do that type of stuff. So that's the vetting process on how somebody gets on the list into the directory.
Okay, so I have to ask you, where your people from?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, DC and South Carolina.
Okay, what part of South Carolina?
Well, Dillon, South Carolina, that's where my family was originally enslaved at. And then they began to move up to DC. And then eventually, in like the 60s, my mom and her family, they came here to New York.
Okay. So my people are from North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, New York, and New Jersey. So I'm a mutt. In those places, my son hate when I say that though. But so those places I have direct descendancy from. So my mother's mother is a migration baby, meaning that her parents, one from North Carolina, one from Alabama, met and they migrated to New York, and they had her in 1931. And then my dad's family is like from Monk's Corner, Charleston, and I have a connection to Edgefield. So in New York, my fifth great granny was enslaved by the Dutch, and New Jersey too. But the New Jerseyans migrated up from South Carolina. So, I got a lot going on in my genealogy there. But yeah. So it's just, so how do you find, what generation are you in?
I'm a millennial.
Oh, I have a millennial. He's 25. So are you in that age range?
No, I'm 35.
You're 35. I
Yeah.
still don't understand how that works. See, because when I was being raised, right, baby boomers were the whitey people. Like the news anchor would say baby boomer, and then everything they talked about related to whitey people. So now I'm in the space where I'm not a baby boomer. I don't consider myself an elder, but the millennials consider me an elder, and it's a title I wear proudly. Because as you know, being from New York, some people can be really disrespectful to the older generation. Likewise, the generation that's older uses their age against the younger generation. So it's a really weird space to be in, and as long as it's respectable, I don't mind being called an elder, right? But I do learn from our younger folks, and I commend them because there's some of them that I would call to a debate anytime. Anytime they be on their P's and Q's with the history. So how do you find the relationship as a millennial with the immigrant class, the Afro-descendant immigrant class, especially being in New York?
I find it to be basically the same relationship we have with the dominant society. They tolerate us. People will tolerate foundational Black Americans as long as we're not standing on business, as long as we're not gatekeeping. Like if we're a safe Negro who doesn't ruffle anybody's feather, people will tolerate us. They will elevate us. The Afro immigrants, legal, illegal, whatever their case is, they'll elevate us. They'll tolerate us. They'll protect us. Like right now, if I go outside, if I step outside my building, go on the block and say, hey, we gatekeeping, this is FBA shit. The rest of y'all can't do this. Y'all can't say niggas. All of the Afro immigrants, no, the coons, the FBA coons, they'll come out and they'll, they'll get secondhand offended. They'll start running interference and saying, hey, we all Black, it's people like you're the problem. And the Afro immigrants, they'll protect them, they'll defend them, they'll take their side, and they'll say, yeah, man, we all one, it's you're the problem, Melrose. So I don't like it's a janky relationship. I don't like it. And I know that's not all of them, but it's too many. And the ones that aren't like that, they're not doing anything to call out the ones that are like that. So I don't like the relationship we've had with any of these people. I don't like it. And that's how I perceive it.
Now, we went viral a couple of times. You identify as foundational Black American, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how did you feel about Fat Joe and his 50-50 statement, and nobody's going to stop him from saying the N-word?
Well, for one, I knew he was lying. And I remember when the whole delineation thing first started to happen. And when Tariq said, hey, I'm going to make this movie called Microphone Check, where we set the record straight. I remember like around that same week where all of this was happening, I bumped into, well, I didn't bump in. I was walking past Fat Joe's store. He has a store in Washington Heights, a sneaker store, a clothing store. And I remember walking up to, some of his Puerto Rican homies, and I said, "Hey, where's Joe?" Because they just had an event there. And I guess he had just left. But when I asked, like the way they looked at me, and then they looked at each other, and then they said, "Who are you?" I said, "Hey, I'm looking for Joe." They said, "For what?" I said, "In regards to him lying about Puerto Ricans starting hip hop 50-50. And then they kind of went off, had a little huddle, and then they came back and said, "Hey, he's not here." And I was like, "All right." And I just walked away. So yeah, I wasn't feeling that whole Fat Joe 50-50 thing. And I'm lucky, because as much as, they're racist and they're wrong, them niggas, they do have a history of violence. So I'm lucky I walked away before one thing led to another. But yeah, I didn't respect Fat Joe for that. And I definitely don't respect all these niggas out here from the city that don't check him on it. Because recently, Fat Joe, he basically admitted that he was lying. He didn't say I was lying, but he was on his podcast with Jadakiss. They got a podcast called Joe and Jada, and the clips were on there. The clips, they were promoting their new album. And basically Fat Joe just kind of unprovoked said, "Man, when I was a kid, my father said, look, there ain't none of us in this rap stuff. You ain't gonna never make it." And how I interpreted that was that because Fat Joe, he's so used to dealing with these off-code apologetic coon FBA niggas that just him being around some Southern FBA niggas, just that real rawness brought the truth up out of him. Like they didn't even ask him; he just kind of went out there and said it. So I like that, along with the success of Microphone Check, that when they sat down with the clips, that truth came out. So I like that full circle moment and how that came about.
How did you feel watching him with Math Hoffa, the N word? And did you know Math Hoffa had a Caribbean background?
I don't think at the time I knew that Math Hoffa had a Caribbean background, but I do remember I had saw Math Hoffa on my block a few times, like randomly early in the morning, nigga was ordering French toast or something from the store. But I remember seeing him, and the few times when I saw him, I said, "Yo, what's up, Math? I see you doing your thing, man. Keep it up." And I genuinely meant that, because I know that Math came from the battle rap joint, and I know that he's had a history of, popping off on people and getting popped on too. So to see him just kind of sitting down doing interviews, that was cool. But then when I saw Fat Joe go up there and he didn't check him, and none of them niggas in there checked him, I knew it was gonna be only a matter of time before Math got his plane landed. And as we see, his plane got landed. His show has basically broken up, and whatever motion he did have, it slowed down drastically. I think Math has tried to come back with like a new version of what he was doing, but it don't got that much motion. So yeah, when I saw Fat Joe do that on Math Hoffa, I was like, oh, it's only gonna be a matter of time, because Joe don't feel like he gotta apologize.
Right. Math Hoffa, I never knew until recently that he had a Caribbean background. I do recall liking Math Hoffa for the simple fact that his name is Math, and I actually have an ancestor by that name, Mathematics, right? So I like the fact that he had math in his name. I like the fact that he was from New York, Brooklyn all day, even though I'm from the Bronx. Brooklyn is my second favorite borough. And Math Hoffa was known to stand his ground. But in light of the Fat Joe incident, and then you find out the Caribbean, such as Busta Rhymes, Karis One, all these people do not feel that we have culture, that we started hip hop. And I hope you can hear my question when you're on pause. You probably got a phone call. Thank you everyone for gifting. If y'all could give Melrose too, while he's here. Did you hear the first part of that question? Because I didn't
Yeah,
finish it yet.
yeah. My bad. I heard everything you said.
Right.
This is my first time on
Okay.
live on this, and I kind of went to another app, but I heard everything.
It's okay. I was on my laptop too, trying to get people in the room because I think this is valuable. I say that okay. So let's go back to Math Hoffa. So I love Math Hoffa. I love K Shine. I love Murder Mook and all the New York battle rappers. Even watch the women's battle rap arena until I kind of fell out of life be life. So, but then you find out the Caribbean, right? When you find out they have this ancestry, you find out they say problematic things such as Busta Rhymes did. All this shit come from the Caribbean and Puerto Ricans. Black Americans ain't got no culture. What's their culture? Kai Cenat, one of the biggest streamers there is, and I believe he was also raised in New York, almost started a riot in New York, makes his money off of foundational Black American culture, and turns around and say, you're just Black. You ain't Trinidadian, you ain't Jamaican, you ain't Haitian, you ain't African, you're just Black, and then tries to cover it up. How do you feel about people in the industry who make their bread and butter off of our culture and then turn around and be so disrespectful?
Yeah, I hate it, and the delineation movement. I'm so glad that we've stepped into delineation because it brought me back to when I was a child growing up in New York City. I remember distinctly how I'd be talking to other, my classmates. It never really happened outside, like in my neighborhood on the block. Even though we had like different Puerto Rican or African kids on the block or whatever, but in school, like a lot of my non-FBA classmates or whatever, I remember distinctly they would be like, I'd be talking, and we're children in elementary school, and we're talking about whatever we're talking about as kids, and I'd say something like, yeah, Black, and they'd say, oh no, I'm not Black, I'm this, or I'm not Black, I'm that. And then I also distinctly remember kids, like my Puerto Rican friend Carmelo, him in like the second grade this happened. I had another friend in like the fifth grade named Austin, this happened, where these are kids repeating the same lies that we hear till this day about how their parents came over here with nothing and now they own a store, they own a laundromat, and they don't live in the projects. And then, to fast forward 10, 15, 20 years later, now I'm an adult and I gotta hear people like Fat Joe, Busta Rhymes, Kai Cenat also repeat these lies. It opens my mind to let me know that, wow, like this is real. This is part of the system. This is part of the systematic racism, the systematic anti-FBA racism that we talk about. Because it's not just a coincidence that everybody from all of these different Caribbean and African countries are repeating the same thing. So yeah, to hear Fat Joe and Busta Rhymes say it pisses me off, especially knowing that it ain't gonna be nobody from New York City to really stand on it and press them on it and check them on it. And to throw out a little fact, I used to do a lot of camera work in the music industry, and I was doing some work for Ron Browse. He's a producer and an artist from Harlem. His name is Ron Browse. He's the one who made the Ether beat for Nas, if you're familiar with that. Ron Browse, he had a lot of motion back in like 2008, 2009, and I don't know if this song was on Busta's album or if it was just like a single, but there was a song called A-Rap Money produced by Ron Browse, and Busta Rhymes was on it. Ron Browse, I was doing camera work for him at the time. He went to go perform with Busta at Busta's album release party. I forgot the name of the venue. If you're familiar with New York City venues back then, it was the joint on Lafayette. It was a big club that used to be popping on Lafayette. But anyway, went there and I'm doing the camera work. And when it was time for everybody like to go on stage and everything, we leave the green room. Everybody's on stage or whatever. And then when it was time for everybody to leave, a lot of people, they kind of just started, the people who I was with, they kind of just walked off the stage and went outside. And they like, yo, Mike, come on, come on. And I'm like, all right, I gotta go get my cardigan that my grandmother just bought me. It was a beautiful cardigan. Long story short, this nigga, it was in the green room, and at that time, after the show, Busta Rhymes was the only one allowed in there, cause he was showering and he was changing or whatever. But they was like, yo, this guy needs to get his cardigan. The nigga picked it up and he looked at it and he said, this one, and he looked directly at me. And I reached out, I said, yeah. He said, close the door. And they closed the door, and the nigga kept my cardigan. He ain't even fit it. So fuck Busta Rhymes.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
And then imagine me having to go home to tell my grandmother, like, yeah, Busta Rhymes took it. And I loved it. And because when she gave it to me, I was just like, oh my God, wow, I love this. It's so cool. It was cool and neat. All the girls loved it. And I'm like, man, this nigga. So yeah, fuck Busta Rhymes.
So, from certain clips, we do know that some of the elders of hip hop are telling the correct, cold-blooded DH Kingpin, who we call Dreadhead.
Shout out to everybody in the comments.
Right. So that's the FBA family on TikTok. They are also on Twitter. Dread is actually delineationist is too. So here's the issue, right? They're coming out now. They're giving the real story, and there was one who said that it was Bambaataa and some other people who hyped up the Caribbean, saying they started hip hop and that Herc was the founder, and he don't understand why they didn't shut it down then. But that's not necessarily the case. We do know when we go back to the crates, digging in the crates, as you can say, and watch old interviews of Herc, he tells the real story that he actually had mentors. He tells who he looked up to. He couldn't play Jamaican music, and that he didn't start what was already going on. Right? We also know the DNA of hip hop is found primarily in the South. Now, I seen a video of Herc, unless it was AI, and his sister stating that he started hip hop. And I find that weird when he already told the truth years ago. How do you feel about Herc's given the credit as being a founder as opposed to what he really did? Host a party or two. But how do you feel about his contradictory statements in the Caribbean sort of being able to tether on?
I don't respect it, but at this point, I like the fact that, people are just lying, because it gives us more fuel to delineate. Because during was it last year or the year before? During the hip hop 50th anniversary, Nas threw an amazing festival at Yankee Stadium where he had a bunch of artists and all of that. And during Nas' set, he brought out Kool Herc and started bowing down to him. And his sister was there. I think she repeated the lie about something about, it was formed for the back to school party or something like that. So I don't respect it. I like it because it's gonna make more of us delineate, but I don't like just being a human and a good person. I don't like it for Herc because it's gonna ruin his legacy. Because it was, I believe it was, I think it was the Source magazine. And if I'm not mistaken, Benzino, he's not FBA. But I think it was the Source magazine. They were the first ones back in the day to put Kool Herc, Bambaataa, and Grandmaster Flash on the cover and call them the pioneers. And that's when the lie really began. And there were times where Herc said, hey, I didn't start it. They was already doing it. But then throughout the years, as the dominant society keeps trying to push the narrative that it was 50-50 and Caribbean influence and all of that, he just started to accept it, which is not cool. And in the long run, it's going to ruin his legacy and his children's legacy and his grandchildren's legacy. Because they're going to be like, hey, wasn't your great granddad, the tether that lied about starting hip hop. So I hate that for him, and that's basically what's going to happen.
Right. So here's where I'm at with it, right? We can know that that the Caribbean isn't a monolith, right? Individuals can be our friend, can be our partners even, right? But
Absolutely.
moving forward though, I'm full on with delineation, but I hear some of our people say, let us work on us first, and then given in the future, we'll come back and we can unify then. What do you say? Are you in agreement with that statement?
Yeah, absolutely. And like once the reparations are paid, once we get all the deportations out the way, once we clear up this 14th Amendment issue, then we can think about, circling back and creating some sort of diaspora unity. But as for the next 100 years, I don't see it happening like that, because there's a lot of straightening and a lot of history that we have to get correct.
Okay, so you thinking longevity, I'm thinking short term, right? So what I practice is tolerance, meaning it's unrealistic to think we're gonna get them all up out of here, right?
Yeah.
As long as we get the problematic ones out. But in the meantime, we have Jamaican descendants or Jamaican immigrants really born on the island, migrated here as a young child, and they're voting no to things for our community, foundational Black American communities, because they can't get a piece. And the same ones who are voting no or saying that they don't support us and our reparations movement has never spoken against CARICOM. You know who CARICOM is, right? They're fighting
Yes.
for the Caribbean. Right. How do you feel about that? Because this is why I don't want unity with them. Because you saw the viral video of the Jamaican lady who said, well, officer, I'm not a Black American. Unalive a Black American, don't unalive me.
Yeah, so
I
she was
feel
like in
that.
the Metro PCS or something in the
What's that,
phone
New
store.
York? What's that, New York?
I don't know. I know she was like in a phone store or something. I know the video you're talking
Right.
about.
So my issue is that her mindset is in our government just dressed up in suits and their weapon is a pen.
I'm sorry, can you repeat
Uh,
that?
yes, her mindset is in our government dressed in suits. Their weapon is a pen that signs no to certain bills specifically for us, or they're saying they're not going to help us. So that's how I'm like, they've done too much. And for me, I'm going to keep my individual friends, right? Because they're not in a position of power to harm my community. They have never harmed me. We have shared culture, but they understand they're Caribbean and I'm Black American, right? We know how to share culture. I also know how to walk away from people if they do pass my cultural boundaries. But as a collective, I don't think I will ever vote for another known immigrant again. So lineage checks is going out even in politics. So how do you feel about the ones who speak against us, say they won't help us, but never speak badly about CARICOM?
Yeah, they're tethers, and if they're not eligible for deportation, they're gonna they still have to be ignored, and they need to be highlighted as tethers. We need to let people know, hey, this person's no good, because like you said, they won't speak against CARICOM, but they still want ours. They still want to receive our reparations and the tangibles that we fought for and earned here. So, and that's very toxic. It's disrespectful. It's hateful. It's freeloading, and I don't agree with it. One of my I consider him a brother, man. I really love this dude. Still love him to this day. But I had to make the decision to cut him off because, like you said, he crossed the cultural boundary where this is my man. He's half Puerto Rican and half Dominican. Cool with his whole family. And there was like a little anti-FBA-ness with his aunt, but they kind of got her straight. And, the whole family, I love them. But within a conversation we were having, we were talking about reparations, we was talking about delineation, and then when the topic of reparations came, and I was like, yeah, man, y'all not gonna be able to get it. He said, if y'all get it, I'm gonna get it too. And I said, yo, bro, that's not the way it works. And he said, well, shit, I'm just gonna have to find a way to get it. That was our last time hanging out and talking, and this was my man's for at least a decade plus. So I'll cut somebody off, no matter how long I've known them. Once they disrespect delineation, our personal relationship is over. I don't care what the circumstances is, because that just proves to me that, like I said about a lot of these people, y'all tolerate us. As long as we're not fighting back and standing on business and being unapologetic, y'all tolerate us. But no, to speak, to want ours stuff and then not include us in your CARICOM, don't jack that. And then also the African Union, they're about to start trying to be sneaky, and we got to watch out for that. We got to, say no to everything that they call themselves got going on, because they're going to try to be the recipients and the distributors of, reparations when America, cuts that check. So I don't like any of these people speaking for us or being in any position of authority. So I don't agree with any of these Caribbeans or African Union people, whatever.
Right. So I know you're very, you said that the New York council members or New York representatives don't like to see you coming. So I know that you're active and you're actively watching our reparations commission, remedies and public. So it's the New York State reparations remedies committee, and they hold public hearings based on the harms that was done. I thought it was for enslavement, but they're trying to push the limit to present day. What are your thoughts on that? And I don't want to hold you up. I know you are a busy man. You have things to do. So I just have like two more questions. This one is not those two. So, but what do you think about that?
No, I appreciate
Hi,
you
Nikki.
doing.
Hi.
You're doing a great
Hi,
job.
Tea Time. Thank you.
No
I used
doubt.
to interview authors in 2015. I had my own internet. Well, I hosted an internet radio show. So I am an urban fiction author, as you know. And so this is one of the things that I used to do. I used to have an internet radio show called Tea Time. What was it? It was the Tea with Empress. I forgot, but I prefer the name Empress, but here everybody calls me BX, and it fits me. So I'm going to stick with BX for a while. But I used to interview people in 2015 to about 2016. I kind of miss it. So thank you.
You're excellent at this. This is one of my favorite interviews.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
So, okay. Oh, also, starting around September 12th, I am going onto YouTube. And so I would love for you to be a panelist guest, because I think that we do have podcasters out there who try to defend some of the mess that the Afro-descendant immigrants say about us. I know the Haitians, especially the women, dressed in our aesthetics, really, really go hard against us, saying we don't have culture. The Africans are saying they got soul food too. And then the people that say we don't have no culture. And these people hosting the podcast either have to be politically correct or they don't know how to defend their point. So I think YouTube needs me and voices from New York as well as the nation to sort of give pushback on things and make them understand that it's tolerance from here on, but delineation is the movement. FBA is the lineage, delineation is the movement, disaggregation is the goal, reparation is the ultimate goal, and won't nobody be happy here until we get our just due, because we built this land. So I would be honored if you would join my YouTube panel when I have it up and running. But the question is, what do you think about the New York State reparations hearings, the way they're trying to get rid of Miss Jenkins? Is it all testified? Like everybody has an alternate background? And what do you think we can do moving? Okay, so I'm going to end it with this. That question, what would you like to see for New York, specifically since the African American parade is coming up? Should we start our own FBA parade? And what do you see for FBA as a whole throughout the nation?
All right. Well, yeah. Let me answer the New York City reparations remedy joint. I would
Yeah.
like to, at this point, since it's so far, it's come so far as time, even though they haven't really made any progress. I would like for us to continue to attend the meetings, attend the public hearings and the business meetings, because there's two types of meetings they have. One's a business meeting and one's a public hearing. But we have to keep attending those in person, online, upstate, downstate, in the city, wherever they do it. And we have to continue to stand on what we've been standing on, so that eventually when it does crash out, the same way they sabotaged it in California last year, they're going to attempt to do the same thing here. But we just need to continue to attend these meetings and, stand on business. That way it can be documented on who's part of selling out and sabotaging the reparations here in New York. I don't necessarily know everyone's background. I do know we got Dr. Deborah Jenkins, and she does a great job with holding it down. So definitely salute to her. We definitely got to fight to protect her, to keep her as she's like the chairman or the vice chairman, correct?
I'm sorry, she's the vice. And also, let me say, sorry, I didn't put the appropriate title to Dr. Deborah Jenkins, but she's the vice chair. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we definitely got to continue to, promote her, protect her, fight for her to remain there, because it was already a fight to get her there in the first place. And then second of all, oh my God, no matter where we're at, whoever's listening, please, if there's any sort of reparations, anything, or just anything going on, but especially a reparations meeting, anywhere you are, if somebody on the panel or the board member, if they say some bullshit, pardon my language, if they say some BS and somebody in the crowd stands up and calls them out, especially for the men in the building, please protect that person. Don't let the security, don't let the coons in the audience surround that person and help kick them out, help escort them out. That's why I can't go anywhere anymore, because everywhere I go, the minute somebody on the panel says some BS, I check them right there. I call them out. And then the only reason why the security they have in these venues are able to kick me out is because the coons in the crowd, they start doing whole shit. Pardon my language. They start acting like, coons, standing up, clapping. Yeah, kick him out. He's disrupting. And I be seeing people do that in other states, in other cities. There was one in Chicago or Illinois somewhere. They was having a reparations meeting. Somebody said some BS. One of the older black ladies, she stood up. She started to call them out. And like the security that was there, they came and like surrounded her, and didn't none of the brothers or sisters, but I primarily put that on the brothers, didn't none of the brothers protect her and say, hey, no, she's going to be able to stand here and say what she got to say. So if you're anywhere in the country and something like that occurs, you protect that person. If you're not the one to stand up and speak truth to power, protect who's ever speaking truth to power, and let the security or let the people on the panel know, no, these people will not be kicked out. So that's what I want to see moving forward here in New York or anywhere where these meetings are happening and these people start talking BS. Because the minute they start talking BS, we might as well go ahead and end this whole meeting. Because, if y'all can't listen to us and do what we want, because that's what it is. A lot of these public officials, our tax dollars pay their salaries, even though they're getting money from, corporate interests to do their bidding. Still, we need to let them know, if you don't do our bidding and fulfill our agenda, then we won't vote for you, and you'll be out of a job, to where not only do you not receive your salary from our tax dollars, but you won't be in position to receive these little under the table dollars from these corporate interests. So that's what I want to see moving forward with the reparations movement across the country and these people on these panels. As far as the Harlem, oh, go ahead. You have something to say?
No, go ahead. Get your thought out. I
All
don't want to
right.
cut you off. Go ahead.
And yeah, the Harlem, the we call it, a lot of us, we call it the Harlem Day Parade, and then others, they call it the African American Day Parade. But yeah, that's coming up September 21st. And I randomly bumped into a gentleman that was wearing an African American Day Parade T-shirt. And for those of you that don't know, it's basically a white T-shirt with the African American Day Parade logo, and the logo is the continent of Africa, and it says African American Day Parade. So when I seen this individual, that happened this week. When I seen this individual, I didn't know who he was. I said, "Hey, would you happen to be part of the African American Day Parade Council?" And he says, "Yes, I'm the chairman." And I looked it up. He is the chairman. His name is Yusuf something, if that's his real name. But I said, "Hey, we need to change the name from African American Day Parade to Foundational Black American Day Parade. And we need to change the logo from the continent of Africa to the continent of America, and change the colors from black, yellow, and red, or green, the Pan-African colors, to red, white, and blue." And as I'm telling him what we have to do and why we have to do it, he was understanding, but then he was also saying how other people want the name to change to something else, and how there's not enough people in the streets, and how there's not enough people donating and, contributing to the parade. And I was pointing out to him how because for the past 3 years, I've been at the parade with all my DJ equipment, my speakers, microphones. I got the canopy. I got a table where we got, I work with the U.S. Freedmen Project. They have pamphlets and brochures about delineation, desegregation, reparations, and all of that. We collecting a bunch of signatures, speaking with the people, really building. So we've been doing that the past 3 years. But he was like, "Hey, y'all not out here?" I'm like, "Sir, yes, we are. Like, we've been doing this at the parade for the past 3 years, and just in general, every day, all day, we're out here spreading, the delineation, desegregation message, and all of that." And then he's like, "Oh man, but it's just not enough." He said, "If we try to change the name to that, there's going to be people who may vote against it." And I said, "Sir, that's going to be the immigrants on the panel." He looked me in the eye and said, "There are no immigrants on the panel of the African American Day Parade." So with that being said, if that's the case, we all here in New York, we should definitely, there's a post I made on Twitter. I'll reshare it, and hopefully you can share it, and we can get it out there to people. So you can go to where we can go to the African American Day Parade website and go to the contact section and fill out a little quick 3-minute thing, your name, email, phone number, and then, leave a comment. And the comment we can leave is, "Hey, change the name to Foundational Black American Day Parade, change the logo to the continent of America with the colors red, white, and blue." And not only can we send that, that email directly from their website, but there's also a phone number. I personally haven't called it or texted it yet, but I'm going to start to call and text this week. And I know they're not going to be able to make these changes in the next 2 weeks before the parade. But if we stay on their bumper from now until, sometime next year, I'm confident that we can get everything we want changed as far as that parade. And then also, we might even be able to bring the parade down to Fifth Avenue. Because after last year's parade, it was basically a police parade. Know what I'm saying? Remember back in the day how Hot 97, they would have a premiere float. 105.1, they'd have a premiere float. WBLS, they have a premiere float. Kiss FM, those are like the premiere floats that people would see and be like, "Oh yeah, it's popping." They have all the artists, it'd be popping. And then you'd have Rough Riders, they come through, everybody on the bikes and the four-wheelers. It was really like a cultural thing back in the day. Last year, when I tell you, I've never seen so many different police organizations, and every police organization that came through, they all had a brand new state-of-the-art 2025 electric vehicle car. You know what I'm saying? Like when the NYPD came
Wow.
through, it was the NYPD coming through, and not only did they have a float, but they had a fleet of brand new 2025 fucking, pardon my language, Teslas. Like these are Teslas, but they're basically just NYPD cars. And then you know there'd be a bunch of officers marching behind the fleet of EV cars, NYPD EV cars, and a lot of the officers that were marching, they have their Haitian flags, their Jamaican flags, their Trinidadian flags, and then the next people in the procession would be the NYPD Board of Parole. Yeah, I'm like, damn, I didn't even know that was like a whole thing. And then they would come through with their, brand new Ford electric vehicle cars. A whole fleet of those would go by. And then it'd be the NYPD Mental Health Board of, I'm like, damn, it's so many different police organizations. And then they'd come through with a whole, fleet of brand new EV cars and stuff. And I'm looking like, well, damn, where are the porta potties? We got a whole police parade with all
Oh,
these,
wow.
and it ain't no porta potties. And what people were telling me and what he ended up telling me was the same thing that people told me. Man, there's porta potties on 110th Street. And basically there's two porta potties on 110th Street. Or wherever the parade begins, there's two porta potties there. Like I said, last year after that parade, I made a conscious effort to attend as many parades throughout New York City and the marathon, and I made a conscious effort to see how many porta potties they had. Man, when I tell you all of these parades have multiple porta potties on different blocks, like 3-4 porta potties on every other block. We don't got none of that in Harlem. During the marathon, they got not only do they have porta potties everywhere, but they got little tables where they're handing out little packets, like little snack crackers and stuff to give people little cups of Gatorade, little cups of hot chocolate and blankets. I'm like, man, where all this money get? Well, how come we never get that money for the Harlem Day Parade? So
Right.
moving forward, we possibly could do our own parade, but we already have a parade with apparently a bunch of FBAs on the board, but they're just scared to stand on business and make the changes that are needed and necessary to preserve and protect our lineage and our culture. So I think if we just continue to email them from the website contact page, call and text the number that they got available, and then when we see these people become familiar with their faces, and when we see them in public, we run down and make it uncomfortable for them. I think we can get the change. So I think that's the solution to that. And what was your last point you had? Your last question?
I did ask you okay, so you talked about the parade, and I wanted to know what did you see for FBA for the future, for the whole nation, not just specifically New York.
Oh yeah.
What would you like?
I would. Well, what I see, my vision for the future is us continuing to delineate, and what I really see happening in the next 10 years is a lot of the young children now who parents are part of the delineation movement. I see them taking the mantle and really bringing this thing into the future, because we've really been putting it down as Gen X, as millennials. But I see the Gen Z and the other youngins under them, I see them learning from us and taking this thing to a whole nother stratosphere and really bringing forth, a lot of change. So that's the vision I see. That's what I want to see. And that's what I'm going to continue to, work towards within building this Black Business Directory. And then also, I'm not sure if you noticed, on that same page on the Melrose Radio website, when you go to the Black pages, when you scroll and you see underneath the Black Business Directory, there's the Black what's it called? The Black Media Guide, where it's basically a lot of YouTube channels, Twitch channels, or just anything where you can get Black media, Black content. So yeah, I'm gonna put your YouTube channel on there, and as
Thank you.
people, no problem. There's already a bunch of YouTube channels and Twitch channels, and I'm gonna continue to build that section up as well, so that the youth coming up and everybody else trying to get some game, they can go there and they can really have like one valid source of where to get information. So that's something that I'm going to continue to do moving forward, and just have that resource available for all of us. And with just like I said, people taking these our time out to make these apparatuses and these platforms, I think all the work we're doing now is going to pay off, because this reparations and delineation thing, it's took us this long to get here, and we've done so much work, but it's going to take us a little while longer. But it's about the marathon, like Nipsey said. So I see us in the next 10 years. I see us really, bringing forth major change.
That's very fitting that you brought up Nipsey, because in lieu of the boycotts, right? I've been saying it's a lifestyle, not a moment. And just like the marathon, the boycotts continue. So I want to kind of end it here. Shout out to SB 515 being passed by our beautiful foundational Black American activists. They did the hard part. Brother Black Vanguard Soldier is on Twitter, but he comes on TikTok and he comes into our rooms and he gives us an update on what happens. That is a big move for delineation, because foundational Black Americans get to stand on their own on certain forms, I think it is. And
That just
so
passed in California, correct?
correct.
Nice.
So congratulations to them, right? Also, what I want to see for FBA throughout in New York, I want our own autonomy. I want the Caribbean to stand down and understand they ain't running ish. We did have enslaved ancestors here. That had nothing to do with the Caribbean. I do understand the intra-American slave trade and the New York specifically being a big port for that. However, do not use that history if you don't understand ethnogenesis. So if an ancestor was taken from New York and transported, because I hate the word shipped, transported to the Caribbean and built a life in the Caribbean, they underwent an ethnogenesis. They are Caribbean now. They can actually get on board with CARICOM if they still reside in the Caribbean. Those who were taken from the Caribbean and brought to New York, if they were forced to stay here and make a life for themselves, they underwent an ethnogenesis, and 9 times out of 10 are identifying as a Black American. Those are the people that have a personal connection to the Dutch enslavement. I did say my granny was enslaved by the Dutch in New York. She was born in 1750 in New York, enslaved by the Dutch. She was transported to the islands, but we find her now buried in 1825 in Columbia, New York, right? So I did not appreciate that lady who stood up in the New York Reparations Committee hearing and said, oh, they were shipped back and forth and rum and this. She had no personal connection to the Dutch, or she would have said it. She does. So it's like, don't use our history, our pain, our horror, our sorrow at this time, because a lot of things are being dredged up, but you got to understand ethnogenesis, right? So if you're Caribbean and you have that history, but you still have an accent and needed a green card, honey, that history is not yours. And it's not yours to tell or use. And I make that perfectly clear in my public comment to the New York State Reparations Committee. I even CC'd the Dutch, because I descend from the Wyckoff Association, the landmark in Brooklyn. So those are some of my European and I actually used to sit in family groups with them. Some are really racist. Some try not to be racist. And, on the whole, I don't want to get to know them. But I want to say, for foundational Black Americans, I see us being more unified than before. I see us standing our ground. I see us demanding respect gracefully. And yeah, we're bold and we loud, and they feel we're divisive. But I've been doing the research, and the Caribbean has never really stood in alliance with us, because tactics they learned in those those Virgin Islands or the British Virgin Islands throughout the Caribbean. They implemented that in New York when they locked us out of home ownership because they found white tea people to sell to them when they wouldn't sell to our ancestors. See how that works? And that disparity is still seen today. So I'm writing an article about that, and I have some very heavy-hitting FBA who were gracious enough to give me a statement. I'm wrapping that up now, and I'll be sure to send you a copy of that, Melrose.
Please
I think
do.
I am. So I love New York. I want to see us FBA not be erased there. We're facing like a triple erasure, I'd say here. I want everybody to respect our culture as we respect theirs. Because it took one time for a Latino lady, I was about 7 or 8, and I overheard her saying that the SPIC word was bad to them, and I never said it since then, until recently when they was getting on my nerves, right? I gotta admit that. I also want to say this. I gave a shout out to California. I gave, what I feel about the New York State reparation. Oh, Deborah Jenkins. If Deborah Jenkins has to go, then so should Chanel Hawkins. So should Favors. So should Hamilton. All these questionable people who seem to want to allow the Latinos, the Caribbeans, and the Pan-Africans with the Africans and Dr. Daniels damn sure got to go. So if Dr. Jenkins has to go, and she's the only one standing 10 toes down for it being what it's supposed to be for foundational Black Americans being repaired, then they all should go, and let's start a new, get a new panel in there.
Absolutely.
So I want to say thank you, Melrose, for spending over an hour with me.
It's been my pleasure.
Yes. And if you want to know how I'm a victim of the intra-American slave trade and still foundational Black American, I have a family plot in the South. My granny was Black and indigenous from North Carolina, and my father is full foundational. It's just my mom was bi-ethnic. So that's how that works. But give us your insight or how they can contact you.
Yeah, once again, thank you for this opportunity. It's been a pleasure and a privilege. Once again, my name is Mike. They call me Melrose, but y'all can call me Mike. That's my real name. And for those of you just becoming aware of me, follow me on here. But you can go to my website, www.melroseradio.com, and it'll give you links to all of my social media, along with the Black Business Directory, aka the Black pages. And if you scroll down past the Black Business Directory, you'll see the Black Media Guide, where you can get access to a bunch of Black content creators and different broadcasters, podcasters, and programs. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If anybody wants to is interested in possibly booking me for DJ services or for event planning services, or if you want to interview me, you want me to come speak at an event or something, you can just go right there on the website to the booking section, and it has all of that laid out. You fill out the form, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Yes, I'm really appreciative. Nikki A says she's sad she just got here. She agreed with many of your points. I'm just trying to give you some feedback. We know that Dreadhead did say that was cold-blooded, what Busta Rhymes did to you. And so he's getting raked over the coals. And see how karma works? Should have never took your sweater. Was Granny mad at you? And then I'm going to let you go. Was Granny mad?
And see, that's the thing. She would always tell me, yo, you always giving your stuff away. You always giving your clothes away. Because that's what we do. We share with those that are less fortunate. And like I said, looking back, a lot of the stuff I used to give away was to my little immigrant friends that didn't have or got picked on. But yeah, sometimes, I would feel like something was kind of old. I wore it enough times so I can give it away. And she would always get on me about that. And sometimes I ain't gonna front. She would buy something. I'd be like, oh man, this ain't my style. So I would either take it back, exchange it, and get something that I like, or I just wouldn't wear it. And she would always feel some type of way about that. But when she came with this cardigan, I said, oh, you've outdone yourself this time. And she was just so happy that I loved it. I was happy that I loved it. And I was happy that she was happy that I loved it. And I just had so much pride whenever I wore it. And she would just always tell me how nice I looked in it. So when I came home that night, she didn't see me. But then like the next 2 days, she was like, hey, where's your little sweater thing? And then I was like, Busta Rhymes stole it. And she was like, well, I've never liked him anyway. And she wasn't angry or upset. She was kind of a little let down. She was more let down that I was upset than her just being mad that I gave it away or wasn't interested in wearing it. So yeah, still to this day, and living mortally, rest in peace to my grandmother. Like I said, that still bothers me. So to see how things are playing out for him, I'm like, yeah, good for that nigga.
Right. Yes, may Granny rest in peace. She was Southern, right?
Yes,
She was
ma'am.
from South Carolina. Yes, nothing like a Southern granny. I tell you that. Both of my grannies were Southern. They didn't play. Strong black women, community members, loved their children, didn't play about them, and always had a gift to give or a dollar to give and tell you don't tell nobody. Am I right or am I wrong?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna end it on that note. It's been a pleasure. I'm gonna clip this up. Well, TikTok clips it up, and I'm gonna post some. Or I'm gonna use it as promotional material if you don't mind. I'm gonna clip it up, put it on Twitter, and ask them to follow my YouTube, which you can find the link in my bio. And I will be honored if you come and be interviewed again on my Twitter. It'll be longer though.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. And as soon as I'm
On
about
my
to go handle
YouTube,
some
I meant
business.
if I say YouTube, on my YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
It'll be
I'm
long.
about to go handle some business, but as soon as I get back in, I'm gonna add your YouTube to the Black Media Guide.
Thank you. Tell them coming soon because I only have like one video up there of the national, when Donald Trump made the declaration of Black History Month. I only have that going, but the first premiere hopefully will be September 12th.
Excellent.
Yeah. Thank you. So thank you and have a blessed day.
You too, and shout out to everybody in the chat, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
All right.
All right. Thank you everyone for gifting and for contributing to the conversation. You know I love y'all, and y'all gonna catch me tearing up somebody on these apps. I love us for real. Love, peace, and reparations to my foundational Black Americans.